Well, hello, Sound Mind family. Welcome back to another segment of Sound Mind. I am so excited to be here with you today on Hope TV. Let me say thank you for your continuous support you give to the Hope TV and to Sound Mind. I appreciate you coming week after week after week, supporting the content and conversation around having a healthy mind, a healthy heart, and still being a Christian. This is an important conversation. So I'm going to ask you to do what I always do. I need you to ask 3 people to come and join right now. If they're not ready right now, busy right now, tag them anyway. They'll see it later. You can do it right there in the comments. Go ahead and do it. Tag them. Yeah, go ahead and tag them, so that they can see this later, and they can be a part of this amazing conversation. Last week, I introduced my co-host, and I'm going to bring her on now. Welcome back, Miss Teresa Pryor.
Hey,
Hey, boss.
everybody.
So happy to see
Hey,
you again.
everybody. Yeah, great
So
to
happy
be
to
here
see
again.
you.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, it's great. Before we keep going, let me give a shout out to Dr. E. Dewey Smith, our pastor, founder, and executive producer of Hope TV. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
sir, for all that you do. We are grateful to have a platform to have these much needed conversations. And last but not least, all the graphic artists, assistant producers, directors, studio room hosts, all of you that make Hope TV possible week after week, I want to say thank you as well. They're behind the cameras, but they are the heroes of Hope TV, and I want to say thank you.
Making it happen.
How you been doing, Teresa?
Oh, hey, I'm doing day by day with the help of the Lord. With the help of the Lord.
With the help of the Lord. So last week we started this conversation about the best thing that my therapist ever told me. And I'll be honest with you, I just started reminiscing on some other things that I've heard from my therapist. And I just now, I was able to kind of go through some things. So I'm going to ask you again, do you want to start this week or do you want me to start this week?
I'll start this week. I got something.
I like that answer.
Okay, so listen. So, we think certain ways about ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you would say?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's really hard to hear other things about yourself. It's hard to hear some truths about yourself. And so, what I believe that, we have to, when you're going into therapy, you got to know that you're going to hear some things that are going to be difficult to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But they're beneficial, of course, but you have to be open to hear them. And you have to be open to hear them from another vantage point. Let me see if I can say this better. So, most of the time, the people that are around us are people like us. So, your therapist is probably going to have a different vantage point than you and your people around you, or the people you would normally ask.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I started therapy, transparency, I think I'm an underground therapist, okay? So, I would think I would know what she was going to tell me before she would say it. So, we'd be talking. I would be thinking, oh, this is where she get ready to go. I know what she get ready to say. I'll be saying this on the inside, right? And boy, she would take it and go turn left or turn a quick left on me. And I'll be like, what? You? Huh? Me?
Not me.
What? Me? But, and sometimes I would be ready to snap back at that. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Or that's not what I meant. But I would, instead of saying anything, sit with it for a minute. Because the whole idea of therapy is to make you look at something differently.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I would want to embrace it the way I understood.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're doing here is trying to change my thinking, possibly. So I had to take some things sometimes and say, now, why would she say that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would she think
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm.
Or why would that be?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd come back the next week and say, let me tell you something, I ain't really like what you said last week.
Mm-hmm.
And we would talk about it. So that goes back to what we talked about last week about being transparent and being vulnerable enough to be honest, to say, okay, I know what you said, but I need to go back to that because
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like what you said about that, and I don't understand what you mean by that. I'm trying,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be better. I'm trying to be better, but I don't understand what that means, and I'm really trying to get that. So let's just say um because let me tell you, my therapist, she's just so sweet, and she's sweet. You can't even not like her. I want to not like her, and I can't not like her because she's just so sweet. But I remember as I was telling her things that happened in my life. There's two things here. As I was telling her things that were happening in my life, she said something to me. She just kept saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I'm sorry. And then I just kept saying, "Why she keep saying she's sorry? Like, what? You ain't gotta say you're sorry. Like for me, because I've
Mm-hmm.
moved on. We moved on through
I,
these things. Hey,
I'm
we in
good.
2020 now. Yeah, this is
I'm
back in
good.
2008. I'm good with 2009 and 10. I'm good. I'm just telling you. I'm just letting you know what happened in my life. So we good. But the truth of the matter is, as it might have been about 2-3 weeks in, and I finally asked the Lord on this one, why she keep saying she's sorry? And he said, because so many times your accusers did, or your abusers never said they were sorry. And you need to hear those words. You need to hear people say, I'm sorry, because you have begun to move without people ever saying to you that they're sorry for hurting you. People should say they're sorry when they hurt you, Teresa. That should not be a norm for people to hurt
Uh-huh.
you and keep going. And you'll be
Mm-hmm.
okay. You should
Mm-hmm.
listen for, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh. And so things like that, you have to be open. And that's why sometimes you don't know what, like this lady, I promise you I just would never have chosen her. But
Mm-hmm.
it's her persona. It's her whole being that I need. And so God needs to lead you to your therapist so that you can know, who it is you need, where you are, for where you're going, and for what you're doing. You need somebody that's going to just, you know, say it like you need it to be said. And so
Mm-hmm.
my therapist in that regard has done that, and it's just been, and that was unbeknownst to her. So I ended up
Mm-hmm.
sharing that with her, that
Mm-hmm.
hey, I need you to know, you saying that, what that has done for me. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm looking for people to say they sorry. So now I don't move past that. We
Mm-hmm.
need to talk about, hey, wait a minute, whoa. I need to hear now. I need to hear that. And so, I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
don't, some things we don't realize that we're doing in our lives because it has just become a norm for us. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why that's why we say it doesn't have to be a response to something. If you're doing it as preventive, things that it'll help. That's a preventive something. That's something you
Yeah.
learn about yourself,
Yeah.
and you learn
Yeah.
how to just how to manage that in life. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just something. It's an easy thing, but that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now that's a maintenance, something that I will just take on and on and on and on, and that's a new way of living for me now from
Mm-hmm.
my therapy session. So That's mine. I'm gonna
That
stop there. I'm gonna let you get.
that's no. That's good. And I don't know. Somebody needs to hear this. Your friends and your family members are not your therapists. They didn't go to school for it. They're not equipped to be it. I know you think it's called just venting. Oh, I feel this real good. You need a licensed therapist. Your pastor is not your therapist.
They are not.
And really honest, I mean this with all sincerity. I just love how you even opened it up. Like you said that your therapist helps you to see sides of you that you don't normally see and identify because everybody around you sees it your way. Because most of the times they're like you. The way the way I identify what a therapist is from my life, you know, in your car, you got your side mirrors, but then there's a button on the side that kind of adjusts what you see. That's my therapist is that she'll move it and say, oh, did you see that blind spot? Oh, did you see that blind spot? And it helps me. Somebody needs to share this right now. You need to share this so your friends will stop making you their therapist. Go ahead and tag them. They won't know what part you tagged them at. Just go ahead and tag them. But that's the reality. I'm just being honest. I had to learn that because I thought I was an underground therapist. Until one day my therapist said, stop being the therapist to your friends. And I said, because she said that's expectation. Then you have had a long day and they just dump on you. Who are you going to? So then you come to this session and trying to dump what they gave you and you're not even talking to yourself. And I'm like,
you never get to yours.
And they don't send me a copay. I don't get that copay.
You still waiting on it?
Still waiting on it. If you're watching and you're my friend, I love you. Mwah. My thing I'm going to share is not the best thing my therapist told me. It's going to be the best thing my therapist asked me. I think therapists are so skilled. Like they ask some questions and you're like, oh,
yes.
So I've been with my therapist for a few months up to this point, and we're just talking and I'm venting about something. I don't even remember what I was venting about. And in the middle of venting, she said, what's your biggest failure? And I said, what's my biggest failure? Started going in my mind. And I came up with the answer. I feel like my biggest failure in life is being a man. And she paused. And she said, explain that. I said, all of the men I ever admired growing up, or all of the men around me, I never felt like I fit in. Woo. Trying to calm down over here. Don't want to have a complete meltdown on the middle of the show. And family, I'm sharing with you because one, I tell my therapist everything. Now, I can't tell you everything, but I tell my therapist everything. One day, my therapist said, I can't touch that. I was like, wait, hold on. You're my therapist. You're supposed to be able to deal with everything. But when I said that to her that day, she asked me, she said, why do you feel that way? And I told her, and then she said, well, describe them to me. So I said, well, they're always the, sports, involved guys. They're like handy, they're hands-on, they have families, and none of that is me. I don't feel comfortable. That's why I don't like going to like barbershops and what she then pulled out of me, she said, you deal with significance issues. And I said, oh, so you just turned the corner on me. She said, I need you to tell me something about you that you like about you as a person.
Yes. Yes.
Teresa, I sat there in silence for 5 minutes.
Yes.
5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't come up with anything that was just about me. I said, well, I'm Uncle B. That's something that's great. I do good work. She says, no, that's not who you are. That's what you do.
You do.
What do you like about you? And I said, I don't like anything about me. And that opened up something in me I needed. So
Yeah.
I grew my hair back. I started, focusing on some things.
Yeah.
I got my
Yeah.
ears pierced,
Yeah.
which was small to other people, but it was big to
Big to
me
you.
because I
Absolutely.
didn't see any value in me. And I had lived my life pouring into so many other people and being able to say, oh, you're amazing at this. But what I didn't know is, drum roll, I was giving people what I always wanted for me, but I never would give it to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I would have
But
never known that
time,
without my therapist. You go, Teresa.
a lot of times, and I just want to pause here and say this because this is a Christian station, and there are a lot of Christians watching this, and probably a lot of servants, a lot of people, church people, but that happens to us in church a lot, and we end up pouring and pouring and pouring. And one of the things I told you was I understand that I am, Teresa exists to support people, which is very a thin line. It's a very thin line. And so I'm just learning the balance of that. My therapist is the one who is helping me with that balance because of just what you're talking about. You can overextend and overgive and overdo until you lose your own identity, until you just become. It's so weird. I just watched Soul, the new picture, and while I was talking to you, I just saw the soul of the person. You see it's an empty thing, but it's still the person, but it's empty. It's empty. I mean, it's empty because it's given and done for others, and it's done all this other stuff, but it's empty. And so you're now putting life, real life, back into that soul that and really it's the spirit that was created from the beginning. And so we have to be really mindful of how we do that, especially in the church. We just have, and I mean, and I hate to say especially in the church, but because that's who our audience mainly is, I do want to say that because be mindful of how you do it. It's nothing wrong with serving. Jesus was a chief servant. So,
Yeah.
hey, I'm all about serving. I'm about servanthood. I'm about being a servant. I believe in servant leaders. I believe in, that's my life. However, we have to make sure that we do it in a healthy way. And so that's how sound mind, mental health matters. All these things come together because when you don't have, when you're out of balance, you have where we are in our world. You have where we are, and you see that it all comes together. Really, it does. Really, it does. Really, it does. So, yeah, I'm sure that was a moment. I'm sure
Yeah.
that was really a
Yeah.
but a very illuminating moment, a
Yes.
revelation for
Yes.
you, and one
Yes.
that now. And here's what I say to you: I'm glad you got it at your age and not mine.
Huh?
So you'll have a
And
few
think
more
about
years
where
to
I
enjoy.
would have been. And think about where I would have been if I had gotten this at 21. Because here's the thing,
Absolutely.
people think you were just dealing with burdens and baggage at your age and but no, this is stuff that came from your adolescence, from your
Sure,
childhood.
sure,
These are little
sure.
things
From
you've
your
picked up.
environment, whatever your environment is, whatever you're around, and that's why it's very important, from little all the way up, that we start when they're young and giving a healthy, balanced environment, because that goes with your children, your kids, all the way up. So I said, when I was growing up as a kid, we were closed. But I took that all the way up until adulthood. And so now I'm just now opening up the can. We just now opening it up. And so
did anyone in your family, as you were growing up, did you ever hear them talking about going to a therapist?
No. What?
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one.
No, therapy was for crazy people. So see, when you say therapy, you're talking about like psychiatry. That's what they said. I'm saying like therapy was like a psychiatrist. So you had to be crazy when you did need therapy. I'm serious. And so it was like taboo. And that's really not what it is. It's so weird. So I was looking at the documentary on Natalie Wood, and it was saying how my granny was very close in that family, and it was just saying how Natalie Wood, they didn't call him a therapist. They called him something else. I can't remember the name of it, but they called him something else. But she literally, I think they said it was not Bette Midler. Oh, it was another Hollywood star that introduced her to. They didn't call it a therapist. They called him something else, but it was a therapist. And like she had this person on contract. She had a contract with, like, this person went wherever she went. And it was that person, when Natalie Wood died, that was the first person that Robert Wagner, which is her husband, that's where he went so he could know how to tell the children. Because the children were with my grandmother. My grandmother was their nanny. The children were with my grandmother. When he left the boat, he went straight to his therapist to find out, how do I tell the children about this traumatic incident that's going to change their life forever. That's the first person he went to. And I'll never forget seeing that and saying, oh my goodness. And I'm just saying that, again, that's a different culture. And they had it. They understood the necessity of having this in their life, and knowing how important this was, and they've been doing it ever since. And I did a segment on mental health, on grief and loss with them before, with one of the children, for that simple reason, because she wanted to talk about therapy. And so we may see her on one of these shows later.
Awesome. I'm excited about that. Listen, y'all are in for a treat, season 3. Teresa, as you have seen from the past episode and this one, that she is filled with so much wisdom and insight. Teresa, we have time for one more experience. Can I share? Do you mind if I share one more?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to share this one because for someone out there, you're like, I don't know the beginning steps of finding a therapist. So I had a therapist that I loved. I love Dr. B. If you're watching this, I love you so much. But Dr. B was in Dallas. So I would fly into Dallas twice a year just to get a session in. Well, I need more than 2 sessions a year. I try to at least go to therapy at the most once a month, because it's just so much to unpack, and so much life happens in a day, a week, yet alone 6 months. So anyway, when I hit this wall, I said, I need to find a therapist here. And I prayed, and I went on psychologytoday.com. And you can search therapists in your area. But not only that, you can put things you want or you identify as. So for me, there were some things that were important. I needed a therapist who understood the church. I didn't need an atheist as a therapist. And so there were some identifiers I put in, and then I had a list of who could speak to these things. And I say that to say, months into us talking, we were having a conversation and I was talking about boundaries with her. And I said, I don't understand if somebody I love that has done something for me asks me to do something and I don't feel like doing it, how do I say no without feeling guilty about it? Because I want to give the same love they've given to me. She said, well, Brian, first of all, love is not about reciprocity. She said, aren't you a preacher? You should know that. Can you ever pay Jesus for what he did for you? I said, woman, don't you preach on this therapy session to me. But she said, love is an outward expression of your care and concern for another person that has nothing to do with what they have done or doing or will do for you. Messed me up. I'm a whole preacher. I work at a church. Shout out House of Hope Atlanta. I live in that world. But my therapist, it was important having a therapist that understood. Her father is a preacher. Her uncles are all preachers. Her grandfather was a pastor. Her boyfriend, fiance, is an executive producer for a Christian network. So she understands the hustle and bustle of my life. But it's important because if I go to talk to someone who doesn't even go to church and doesn't know what that world is like, they won't understand when I say, oh yeah, I'm at church at 6:00 a.m. working. Why? You know, that type of thing.
Right.
But it was important that she could speak my language. I'm going to say this, our time is running out, and then I'm going to let you share, Teresa. But what's difficult sometimes is people, we try to talk to people who don't understand our language. And it's very important, as important it is for a Black child to have a Black teacher and have Black influence so they understand their culture. It is just as important for you to have a therapist that understands you. And I want to share that with someone.
Let me put a comma there though. Let me put a comma there. I do agree wholeheartedly. However, I also think you have to know where you are. And I tell you why
that's good.
I tell you why I say that. Because what I wanted from my therapist was I did not want my therapist to be a Christian.
I
didn't want a Christian.
I told y'all were going to like her. I told y'all were going to like this Teresa.
I'm a Christian. I didn't need my therapist to be a Christian. I needed her to be a therapist. And so I didn't need that. I didn't need that. I wasn't looking for that. I didn't want it because, again, my world was full of Christians.
Gotcha.
And I need a therapist. I need somebody to hone in on what the issue is right here. And I'm not saying, and I please hear me, I do, I still believe, because I believe the power of God is so powerful. There are times,
amen,
I'd say, now listen. That's the Holy Ghost speaking, whether you want to call it that or not. I don't care I don't know who you believe or what you believe in, but that's the Holy Ghost talking right there. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
So when I went for my therapist is a white Jewish old lady. So I'm telling you, it is not who I thought. It's not who I thought. But she's perfect for where I am. But I also know that I'm gonna change. I know that there will be a moment, there'll be a time when I'm gonna make a shift. I know that. And she knows that.
And I'm so grateful you said that. I'm so grateful you said that, because people think, and I'll be honest with you, I know in our culture, some people keep their beauticians and their barbers all their life. They keep their doctors as long as they can. But with a therapist, because I've had maybe 4 in my lifetime, what I have learned is different therapists help me in different walks of life. And like you said, it's important to know where you are. Now, don't get me wrong. My therapist, y'all, if y'all could hear what I tell my therapist sometimes, it would be censored and it would be shut off the air because I share some craziness with my therapist. Everything that's up here, I share. But where I am in life, that's what I need. And I wanted a older white woman who's been divorced, that's what I wanted.
She wouldn't be able to talk to all that. No, no, she wouldn't be able to talk to no.
And that's why you have to pray about where you go for therapy. You don't need a Christian therapist per se, but you need to pray about who you go to so they can work in you. We're going to get in trouble because we're taking a while. So thank you so much for tuning in. You're going to be seeing more of Teresa in the weeks to come. So look out for that, those flyers and graphics. If you've enjoyed this, show Teresa some love in the comments. Share, tag, because these are conversations here. Season 3 is going to be phenomenal. Teresa, I love you. I spend at work every day. But until next time, family, take care of your sound mind. Love you. Have a great week.
We love you.